Alright, folks, so just real quick for the benefit of those watching at home, the question today was, under what conditions does the speed of a wave change? And what is the answer?
The medium.
The medium, absolutely. You need to change the medium in order for the speed of that wave to change. Okay, so let's take a look at this worksheet, and we'll get through as much as we're able to by the end of the hour here. We did number 1 in class, so let's just head on to number 2 already. We've got 3 dots on there. We got to figure out exactly what those dots mean. So, letter C. Would you say this is constructive or destructive interference? Destructive, because we are in between these 2 crests, so that means there's got to be a trough there, and yet we are right on with this crest. And so there's a crest there. And so where you've got a crest and a trough, that means you've got destructive interference. So C is destructive. What about A? Why? Exactly. So letter A, you've got 2 crests in the same spot. So that is constructive interference by definition. Letter B is interesting, though. There aren't any lines there. What is letter B? Constructive. How come? Yep. 2 troughs are in that location, and we know 2 troughs are there because it is exactly between these 2 crests, and it's exactly between these 2 crests. So you've got a trough in both of those spots, because troughs are in between the crests. Another interesting thing just to make note of is eventually we'll be talking about where you've got constructive interference along a line, and anywhere on a maximum line you're going to have constructive interference, whether it's here where you've got 2 troughs, or there where you've got 2 crests, or anything in between. You also have constructive interference going on. You guys are going to have to turn the music off, please, okay? Xavier? Thanks. So yeah, that's what we have for those lines. And anywhere on a maximum line, you've got constructive interference happening. Well, number 3, if a double crest defines a maximum, and the combination of a crest and a trough define a minimum, what does a double trough define? You guys already said it once. Constructive interference, yeah. So constructive interference or maximum, either way is just fine. Now on to the drawing. So here we are supposed to draw maximum lines. And we have to do the 0th, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd order. So again, all you do for maximum lines is you take your straight edge, line it right down the middle, and when you draw a line where you're connecting all the spots where the crests are meeting together, like here and here and here and here, then you've got yourself a maximum line. And this would be the 0th order maximum line because it's right in the middle. As we go out left and right, that number is going to get higher by 1 each time. So now I see I've got some other locations where the crests are crossing, and I'm just going to line those up and do the same thing. And if I go over again, you can see there's another one. And I could do another one. All you're doing is you're taking your straight edge and you're lining it up with the areas that you have constructive interference that actually make a straight line. And that's what this is all about. So this would be the 1st order, 2nd order, 3rd order, and you'd have the exact same thing on the left side too. Yes? For a maximum line, yes. You'll always have one that goes right up the middle like that. Yes? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Alright, so that's page 1. Page 2. Number 5 is an interesting one. Now we got to do minimum lines.
Oh my God, I don't like it.
Yeah, minimum lines are kind of annoying. So the best way to do minimum lines, as I mentioned, is to draw in maximum lines and then draw the minimum lines right in between. and then just erase what you had drawn for the maximum lines. So here's how I would begin number 5. I would start by drawing in one maximum line here, and another maximum line. Again, all I'm doing is lining up the spots where I have the constructive interference. And I'll do one more out here. So these are my maximum lines, and you could put those to the right as well, but this isn't what the question's asking for. The question's asking for the minimum lines. And all you do to draw a minimum line is you just draw it right in between the maximum ones. So this is the sort of thing you would get. You just do the best you can, and you draw your minimum lines exactly in between your maximum lines. The final step, of course, then is just to erase the maximum lines. So there you have 3 minimum lines. And you can see they're in between the maximums. You would have a maximum here and there and there and there. So yeah, this would be the first order minimum line, second, and third. And you could do the same thing to the right. Questions on number 5? Okay, let's take a look at number 6. So now they want us to draw 5 more lines of constructive interference. And another way to say constructive interference is to draw a maximum line. So let's draw those in. And after that, it wants us to compare how those lines look with some of the other problems. So I need to draw in 5 maximum lines. So I'm just going to line up with a straight edge where these things all cross. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now, the real important part of this is the question, what happens to the spacing between the lines of interference? And it wants you to compare this with how your lines looked in number 4 and number 5. Can anybody see what the difference is on your own sheets when you look at those two? What's that? Yeah, they're more spread out. They're further apart. And that's the thing that you should take note of. So they are more spread out. And this is something that's going to come into play later. So make sure you do put this next to your answer there. And the main thing, the reason that they're more spread out, when you look at the difference between numbers 4 and 5 compared with 6, what they've done is they've taken the two sources and they've moved them close together. And so, for whatever reason, when you move your wave sources closer together, these maximum lines spread out. Now number 7 is going to ask pretty much the same thing. We want to draw in some maximum lines and see how those compare with numbers 4 and 5. Yeah, exactly. Once we have these maximum lines drawn in, you'll see they're even more spread out now. And that's something else that you should take good note of, because that's going to come back later. could draw another round too, but you can just see, even from drawing only 3 maximum lines, that the distance between them is much greater than the last example, and certainly much greater than numbers 4 and 5 when we did those. So number 7, they spread out even further. All right, questions on 7? Is this starting to make a little bit more sense? Sometimes you just need to see these maximum lines get drawn in before you get the hang of it. That's understandable. Now we go to the chart. Yeah, this is where a lot of craziness can happen. So, it's one thing to draw nice little lines on here, but now we actually have to do some analysis and see what happens when we throw some numbers in. So it says, how many wavelengths from each source is each of these letters? By how many wavelengths do the paths differ? And is there constructive or destructive interference at those points? So I'll just go through a couple of these and you'll get the idea, and you should be able to take it from there. So if I'm looking at the letter A, it's up here. And if I want to know how many wavelengths it is from source 1, S1, I just got to count. So I'm starting here. So from here to here is 1 wavelength, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 8 wavelengths from source 1. And I can do the same thing from source 2. So from here to here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Of course, the difference is 0. And what is A? Is it constructive or destructive? Yeah, constructive interference. All right, letter B.
Oh, you said it was 8? Number A?
Yep. Yep. You're just counting from your sources, each of those lines, and you should get 8 when you do that from both directions. So letter B, let's do the same thing. So from S1 all the way over to letter B, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 8 once again. S2, or let me, that's not 8, is it? Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's on the crest. Now S2 is going to be a little bit different here. And you can tell that right away because it's not on one of these 2 crests. So when we're looking at S2, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Uh-oh. It's right in between 7 and 6.
6.5.
Yeah, 6.5. So our difference is going to be 1.5. Is this constructive or destructive? Destructive interference. Very good. And let me see here. Let's see if we can do 2 more quick ones. Let's do, yeah, just the next 2. So letter C. Letter C is way over here. So from S1 we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9? Maybe I counted wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it's 10. And then from S2 we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got 8 there. Difference of 2. Constructive, absolutely. And in order to see what we're supposed to see, we got to do 1 more. So letter D is much closer. This should be easier. So from S1, We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In between 5 and 6. Yeah, 5.5, absolutely. And then from S2, just clear these out of here. We've got 1, 2, 3. So now we've got another difference of 1.5. Constructive or destructive? Destructive, yes. And you can tell it's destructive because it is on one crest right here, but it's exactly between two other crests. So you've got a crest and a trough in that location. So the main thing you were supposed to see from number 8 is that when you have a difference that is not a whole number, you're always going to have destructive interference. And if the difference is a whole number, you've got constructive interference. Of course, the last page is kind of a big thing, taking everything into account. So feel free to check your answer on that with the answer key. It'll be made available at the end of the day today. I'm going to just leave your homework on your tables. I'll grab it after you leave in a couple seconds here.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you counting from here to here? Okay. So count over to. Yeah. That one looks good.
Oh gosh. Oh.
It's okay.
Don't
I mean,
get out my
right there. Just do it that way.
Okay, I did it this time, but I'm not sure if I did it.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
We're super